to another episode of the Three Wise Guys podcast. This is definitely the first time that we're doing this intro today. There's no issues whatsoever. First of all, shout out to Alyssa behind the camera today. Davin, our dear friend, he is away for a very good reason. He'll be away for the next few episodes. He is opening up his cafe. So shout out to Davin. We went to the soft launch yesterday, I think it was. What was the dish called? Croffle. It's like a croissant waffle.
A1.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like tons of strawberries, tons of cream. I really enjoyed it. The bubble tea was really good too. But if you are in Leslieville, go to Kidultland Cafe at 1091 Queen Street East. Davin would love to have you. I think their hard opening is on Thursday, May 8th.
Yeah,
that's the day.
I don't know.
This episode would have been out, I think.
This episode would have been out. Yeah. So it's open by the time you guys are seeing this. So go check it out. We love you, Davin. Yeah, we miss you. We'll see you back here soon. While you deal with business.
Yeah, and you are invaluable to this pod, given the fact that this is not the first time we are doing this intro.
I tried to record it, and I guess it just didn't record. And now we're here with a watchful eye, making sure that everything goes well. So how you boys doing?
We now know who is the project manager and who is the implementer in the production team.
Exactly.
It's been made very clear. If you go to the cafe and you buy something because you heard this episode, I want you to go and drop a random wisdom quote after you purchase your thing with no context, and no matter what they say, do not respond.
Yeah, don't tell them where you heard this from or anything like that. Just tell them eggs come in many shapes and sizes.
Yeah, this will be a test to see if Davin actually listens to this podcast when he's not editing.
I think his family members or his, we were like, the podcast guys.
His brother's his brother's girlfriend was there too. It was pretty cool.
Does it throw you guys off to be recognized as like a podcast guy?
A little bit.
It throws me the fuck off.
A little bit.
I guess so.
I'm like, I have like a whole other life. This is just
some people only know it. Some people know us only as dudes who do a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, that's all they know of us.
I tend to think that's more negative valence than positive, but you know what? Like, it's fine. We're talking a lot about masculinity today, so we're changing up the vibes. Like we're
joining the manosphere.
Well, men can have a podcast without being inherently toxic, and it could be a proper and adequate expression, hopefully, of who we are as people. We're being the change,
Exactly. Like, this speaks to redefining like what it means to be a man, which we'll get to later in the episode. Yeah. So stick around and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But excuse me, I'm curious. You went to Montreal. How was that?
Yeah, it was good. I was gonna say I thought you guys were gonna start with voting and stuff, but I can start. Yeah, I can start with Montreal. Montreal was incredible. I think every time I go to Montreal, I remember, wow, this is such a beautiful city. Like, why did I pick Toronto over here? Well, I know why I picked Toronto over there, but it just reminds me that's a city like I would love to live in as well. Like, incredible. I was thinking most of the times I went to Montreal in the past, I was a broke student, living in or getting Airbnbs and, sketch areas, getting kicked out or getting the cops called on me by hosts that I thought I booked Airbnbs with. So
running away from crackheads.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was a checkered past with me going to Montreal.
Luke and I, on the other end, have had like amazing experiences going to Montreal.
We had pretty good ones.
We had one really nice Airbnb. You remember?
Yes.
The super nice one.
Oh yeah, that was nice. The dryer was quite scary.
The dryer was scary, but there was lots of art on the wall. It was
very cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I stayed with Ola that time. Yeah.
Were you there that time I went with Ola and Lauren? No, that was Josh.
Yeah.
Were you there where our car got stuck?
No, I was there where we had to push it up.
Stuck?
Yeah, we had to push it up. Yeah.
So that was like, I guess I was a part of
this story.
I was a part of one of those ghetto experiences.
Like, we went to this Airbnb that had like a underground parking lot.
Yeah.
And the parking lot was like a hill. Like, like most parking lots. Like you go and it was so steep. Or it was like I don't know how to describe it. Like it was like a roller coaster where like you go like this.
It was more than 45 degrees.
Yes,
like it was steeper than 45 degrees.
Yeah, like you go like this and then it just drops. And then it was like, I think to
Talking
go
about Wonderland or parking?
No, parking.
Yeah, straight up.
It's like a tiny space as well.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who was driving. I think it was you, and you were a little scared to like take it. And then Lauren came in, or maybe it was Lauren, and then you came
and
in.
then and then on the way out, we started to like stall.
Yeah, like
halfway up the ramp.
halfway
So
up.
we had to like me, Dolapo, Josh, Ola. We all got out of the car.
started
Lauren
pushing it, yeah.
got into the driver's seat, and we were like coordinating like 1, 2, 3, and fuck. And then also the other detail was the ramp was too small to really fit 2 cars. So it's like if a car was gonna come in at the exact same time, we were fucked. Like
dude.
it was.
Was it snowing or anything?
No,
no,
it was
dude,
summer.
like
Dry
summer,
concrete.
Yeah. Wow.
summer,
It was just
like it was
concrete,
that
dude.
steep.
No,
like
it was indoor, like
Yeah.
it was
Indoor.
underground.
Yeah.
That's more of a problem with the car, if I'm going to be honest with
probably,
you.
yeah.
Like car,
Possibly.
car not being able
Also,
to make
in
it up.
hindsight, I think we could have turned it on like D3, like we were just on drive. You know what I mean? Like you know how you can set it to like the hill setting. Like we didn't do that.
It might have been an issue with the car, but that like
The steepness
it was,
did help.
that steepness was. I've never been on like anything that
Yeah.
steep like for a car. It really felt like a
Were the
roller
tires
coaster.
skidding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, shit.
I was 100% confident if I called the city on that fucking building,
Yeah.
it would not have been the first time, and it's definitely the opposite code. Like I was like,
no.
there's just no way. Like
Yeah,
people are
this-
seeing this ramp and they're just like, yeah, this is chill. Like this
Yeah.
is.
The car could have been like better, but that also was
Yeah.
not up to code. Like that was not normal.
Yeah, I just think how dangerous it was for you guys to be
behind the car.
car
I know,
that's skidding
right?
on a steep incline.
Well, we shoved it.
And you're
It
like,
didn't
oh,
skid.
we're gonna push it. We're strong enough, guys. We can do
No,
this.
we're
We can
idiots.
do
Like
this.
I think me and Luke were establishing yesterday that like a lot of because Luke was reminding me like in like the last 2 years of university, he was my primary driver. Like Luke was like
Yeah,
not
we
my
were talking about that,
Like,
yeah.
like everywhere, I remember Luke would just always pull up to Lee's and like I just get down, get in his car, and like we'd just be driving everywhere. And I was like, that's so true. And like we did a lot of interesting things. And this just
Yeah, we're not
happens
gonna
to
repeat those things
No.
today because
Was it your car?
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
yeah.
his car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
A big part of this is definitely
it was the car. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like the car was a big factor. If I had like,
I'm
if
just
I had like
remembering when Luke's
yeah.
car was in uni.
Yeah, it was a 2008 Honda Accord, right? So it's like if I had like a newer 2016 like just semi decent shape like vehicle, it might have been fine. But like to be honest, man, like it was just like so many like experiences of just doing like completely irresponsible things in a vehicle to the point where like in hindsight, like I think back on some of those things and I'm like genuinely horrified. I was like, but like even like luckily I think. Like, and this will sound bad, but like, luckily, in almost every circumstance, the only people at danger were ourselves. I think that's the only silver lining.
Yeah, like we weren't gonna endanger other people.
Yeah, the only silver lining was these were always like we were in Algonquin Park. In my vehicle. But like,
these silver linings, your parents probably wouldn't have.
no, they wouldn't have
no,
considered
like,
them silver
That's
linings.
not better to me.
Yeah,
But all this to say, like this time in Montreal, sponsored by my place of employment, I was able to stay in a swanky area in a swanky hotel. No sketchy parking garages.
Yeah.
And like I was just able to take in the city, and I was like, this was like a really like different like work trip. Because it wasn't just me walking from my hotel to like the office or from my hotel to the conference, room or conference fucking building, whatever that's called. Like, because we have friends all around the city, I was able to go to neighborhoods like Griffintown, Point St. Charles, like see what like not suburban, but like, city life for people that actually live in the city looks like. And
You actually explored the city.
yeah, the city, like I feel like I didn't know there was a canal in Montreal, but like there is, like the kind of stupid thing.
yes, yeah,
Like I
yeah.
probably knew, but like I just had never seen it, and like both my friends that I visited live very very close to the canal, and it was just incredible to see like huge jogging community.
Yes,
and like
yeah.
people, huge biking community around that as well. Like one of our friends, Mish, has a bike now that she just goes around, and Sunday still rents. It's kind of cool. Like it was just like really interesting. We got to go out and have fun dinners, and my manager, who's like just like an incredible person. Like she lives in Montreal, and like she hosted us. She invited us to her home. She lives in a very, very nice, super European neighborhood in downtown Montreal. I forget the name. I can ask her, and like, but like it's incredible. It's really close to like, is it Foundation Bagel, or I forget. This is like OG bagel spot.
Okay.
I forget the name. It starts with F.
Of course, your North Star is food.
Dude. Oh man, like,
but the food isn't. Oh, every time on this podcast that we bring up Montreal,
bagel spots in Montreal,
oldest bagel spots. But I'm gonna say every time Montreal gets brought up in story form on this podcast, I'm gonna shout out my favorite poutine spot, which is
Le Petit
Patati Patata. I think it's at the corner of
Fairmont,
Rebecca and Saint Laurent.
Yeah.
But the bagel place that you're talking about is on Fairmont Ave.
Yeah, it's called
Mile End.
No, it's called Fairmont Bagel. Check,
Fairmont
yeah,
Bagel.
check the name of the neighborhood. Mile
End.
Is that Mile End?
That's what it says. Yeah.
Like it's close to like it starts with an N, I think.
Interesting.
But yeah, so we did that, and like she organized like a scavenger hunt. Yeah, like maybe like a little.
You
like
gotta zoom out to get
like
to get the neighborhood. I think. It's fine. Yeah, Mile End. It's in the Mile End neighborhood. It says it right there.
Yeah, maybe it is Mile End. Yeah, like I might be tripping, but yeah, she lives in the Plateau, so
right next to the park.
Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful,
cool. So yeah, no, incredible area with like the type of like homes there. We did a scavenger hunt around the city. Like I was saying, Berlin Wall in the middle of Montreal, or at least a piece of it.
That was on your scavenger hunt?
Yeah, it was on a scavenger hunt. Yeah. And like we had
to go confused as hell. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah, like luckily, like we have Perplexity and GPT, so all the hints, like. Yeah, like that's the scavenger hunt was less about figuring out the hints, and it was more about who could maneuver the quickest around
the city.
Yeah, because some people rented like bikes, like some teams rented bikes. We're like, no, we're gonna walk and like Uber. Some people only Ubered, and like it's like you're downtown, so like Ubering, like might have not been the like smartest thing to do, like and stuff like that. And the scavenger hunt ended at my manager's house because like. The last place was Fairmont Bagel, and then it was like a 5-minute walk, like from our house, and so like we got to get Schwartz smoked meat.
Oh my, I love that place,
dude!
Great,
just bread, mustard, and unholy amounts of red meat. Oh my god! Like, come on.
No
like,
sauerkraut.
I can't believe you didn't like you weren't familiar with.
Sorry,
it's not a Reuben. It's not a Reuben. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I was like I don't know.
Mustard.
People, Like I remember my coworkers were like, I thought you've been to Montreal a decent amount of times. I was like, I have. Like I don't know. I was a degenerate. I didn't come here for like like smoked meats and shit. And so we did that, and like it was just great. What else did we do? We went to Fly Gin. So apparently a Montreal institution as a nightclub. Like they have nightclubs that are there for like 15 years. I'm like, nightclubs aren't supposed to last 15 years. They're like a 5-year bust. New nightclub comes in, different name, same location, kind of business.
Conservative neighborhood. They keep their shit going.
Well, yeah, like it's a restaurant that turns into a club. So like, yeah, we had like loads of fun there, and dude, like it was just like. Coworkers are great. Got to see friends. Went to like an Afghan restaurant. I had some kebabs.
Why are you looking at me?
Because
I'm not Afghani.
Yeah, but the first Afghan restaurant I went to was courtesy of your mom and grandma.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
Wait,
like on Lakeshore.
No, that was Turkish.
That was Turkish?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I got my Middle East folks mixed up, so apologize. Apologies to anyone that might have been offended. But I just love the rice kebab. Combo. Like it just doesn't get better.
Yeah, you know what? Like that was a very insightful thing you just said there, because I just realized I do not really differentiate between any of that shit.
Yeah, well, they're all different. Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkey are different countries. Just in case you didn't know.
Obviously, I'm saying from like a cuisine standpoint, because sometimes I'll be like in public, because someone will be like, "Oh,
yeah."
No, I think like yesterday, I think you were like, what is the difference between like different fried rice? No, my girlfriend was like, what is the difference between different fried rices? From Korea versus Japan versus China? And I was like, they all like use the same base technique, but like the seasonings are very different, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, but then in my mind, I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like I actually know the difference between like a gyro and a donair and a shawarma and whatever. But like to be honest, all three of those things like to me is like you know what I mean? If I was like, if I was like, if I was like, oh, I want a shawarma, and someone was like, oh, I know a good donair spot, I'm not gonna be like, no, that's complete. But you know, I bet like a person who is like, you know, like who's like from Dubai or something, and he's like, I want a shawarma. Like he wants a shawarma.
For all the cultured folks, like of all those sandwiches you mentioned, donairs are the best. That's my opinion.
That's debatable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I haven't had enough good donairs to co-sign.
I've really been fucking with gyros recently. It's just like the simplicity.
Gyros up there. I've had really good gyros. I've had really good shawarmas. I haven't had the best donairs.
Same.
Because the best donairs are all in Europe.
Well, okay. Like, look at that.
Donairs are not. That's what I said for the cultured one.
All right, fair.
What's the thing that that's really big in Halifax or whatever? Donair kebab.
Whoa.
There was like a thing. I was talking to my coworkers about this. Apparently, there's like this thing in like here. I'll search it up. But like,
well, while you search that up, one of my friends were talking about while we were talking about donairs. I don't know. You guys are more social media cultured than me. Apparently, there's this Turkish dude on Instagram that eats donairs and like dances with his belly.
The skibidi beep. Yes.
Like I don't know, but like I was watching the video and I was like, oh my god, like what the fuck?
He has millions of like followers on Instagram. He has millions, hundreds of millions of views on his videos.
I'm
it's
not
insane.
on Instagram, dude.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Actually, Luke put me onto this thing the other day. I didn't know what it was. Italian brain rot. Yeah. I don't know what that was, but it's actually nightmare fuel, actually, in my opinion.
Italian brain rot.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
what was the crocodilo armadillo?
Bombadero crocodilo. I just know one of them is cappuccino assassin or something.
Cappuccino assassino.
Yeah.
And there's a girl version of that too.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. There's just a bunch of them. One of them is like
Alyssa might know it.
No, she's on a different side of TikTok. This is like the side of TikTok.
She's like, don't involve me in this conversation right now.
No, like you know this.
Okay, it's like shorts.
I consume TikTok material elsewhere, so I'm even more toxic. But so, sorry, the brain rot reminds me. I do want to jump to the trending topic I wanted to talk about. Okay. But yeah, so this was something I found out very recently. I don't know if you guys see this on screen, but there's a Halifax donair. And then there's European doner kebab. So I think
that's the good one.
Doner kebab is the one you're talking about. Donair is like actually a Canadian thing where they use like sweet garlic sauce. It's still like a wrap and everything, but like they use like a sweet garlic sauce or something. And then there was recently there was a very controversial thing because there was like this mascot that represents the Halifax donair. And you can see here it's the food of the province or whatever.
Really?
And that mascot has pieces of tomato in the mascot. And this guy wanted to buy the mascot and remove the tomatoes out of it because he was like that's like not how he wants to brand his, because like that's his chain or whatever.
I like this guy. Let's vote for him for prime minister.
The people in Halifax like came together and started a fundraiser, like a Kickstarter, to buy the mascot costumes, like the rights to the mascot costumes to keep the tomatoes, so that they could like. By the way, I might be getting the details wrong. They might have wanted to take the tomatoes off, but it was related to tomatoes. Like it was related to tomatoes or lettuce or some shit. But
incredible.
Yeah, like I like how it says it clarifies it there. The European doner kebab is never sweet.
Never sweet.
It's never sweet
because they shouldn't be sweet. I don't know what people are always doing.
Like I'm looking at the sweet garlic sauce, condensed milk.
Wait, what?
Sugar, vinegar, and garlic.
Oh God,
that is the sauce that they put on a doner. Hey, listen, Halifax. I think you guys have a beautiful city, province.
Have you been?
No, I've seen pictures, but like I think everything is like, you guys look great. This is not it. It doesn't look like it's it, but when I go, I'm gonna try it because I am intrigued.
Now you know this just brought me such a precise memory because my dad, I remember when we were young, he took us to Thousand Islands. This was like during the first year when I came to Canada, and we went to the spot and he got this thing that I remember looked exactly like a shawarma. And I ate it and I hated it. It was very sweet. And because of that, I remember when I was in high school, when Safe took me to a shawarma spot, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. Because I remember my dad like bought me some shit similar. And then I just assumed that spot just had like a different type of sauce. I think that was Halifax Donair, because it's saying condensed milk. That makes sense. Now that
I think about it, I think most of the Donairs I've had are probably like the
Halifax
Donair.
Really?
Like, yeah, because it's like usually franchises, like, you know, these like kind of shitty franchises.
After this episode, I now that we put it on the screen, I was gonna go get a doner kebab. Like a European one. There's a couple stores, maybe like 15-20 minute drive. I'll get you one.
Yeah, let's go. We're all gonna go get a doner kebab. And then
next episode we'll review it and we'll let you guys know what we think. And
fair. That's but yeah. Long story short, Montreal is a beautiful place. Like, always love going there. Yep. Had a fantastic time. And yeah, I think I should probably be going a little bit more often.
We should all be going to Montreal more often.
Yeah. We got friends there. We have to visit.
We have to. I want to come back to this Italian brain rot thing and the internet.
Please,
because
my God.
I don't get it. I don't get Italian brain rot. I don't understand it.
Oh yeah, it's
like where did it come from? I need an etymology report of Italian brain rot. Maybe I'll put this together for the next episode and I'll present it. But I don't understand. Okay, and you don't have to answer the question, right? But like you know it more than me. So like from your eyes, and it doesn't have to be accurate. Like, what is it? Okay,
just for some context, I do come from like a marketing background. I don't work on the social media side of things as often because I work on performance marketing. But like, it is like not surprising to me in the sense of like when you look at what has been trending in terms of brain rot content on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram over the last 5 years, it's just naturally kind of slowly coming to this, right? Remember when AI first came out, one of the very popular brain rot formats was like they would do like popular IPs like Breaking Bad or like Harry Potter, but putting it in a different universe. So it would be like Breaking Bad if they were like knights or some shit, and then like Heisenberg would be like a wizard or like creating like potions or something like that. So like these were like brain rot edits that were going on, but like the essence of brain rot is it has to be insanely attention catching, and insanely attention catching things are just like nowadays just like really weird and controversial, right? So like you look at all of these things, they're just like they take a random thing and they spin it and then they just make it like really weird, and like it's almost like the goal is to make it look like nothing else in the market, but then apply an element of familiarity either through music or like, you know, like the audio that's used or etc. So like it just catches on over time. And then like when one thing starts to trend, everyone else starts to make content around it, which makes it like explode even more. Like that's the power of the internet nowadays, right?
There's a shark with sneakers.
Dude, I can't contribute to this conversation.
That's fine. That's fine.
My preferred form of brain rot is sports commentary.
That's not brain rot. I'm sorry.
That's not brain rot. No, brain rot is literal like
brain rot has zero value. Like that. That's the actual like essence of brain rot. Like it's just the only thing it is it's attention catching. Like that's all it is. Like you're not gonna leave a brain rot piece of content being like, wow, I learned. Like
I know why Dolapo was calling it brain rot, because Dolapo is not like chronically online.
Yeah,
right. Fair. And so he just considers any content on social media to be brain rot.
That is correct.
And I know exactly where you're coming from with this. You're just like, oh, I'm watching like memes on the internet, brain rot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
but no, this like what I've learned, because I didn't know this either, but like brain rot is a specific like vertical of online content.
Just like, where are we?
And we'll post this for everybody. But what you're looking at right now, I actually think I know this guy. I was reading it before I got something. And this, I don't. There's a crocodile with a watermelon. I don't know what that one is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no. So
like, I'm okay.
Anyways, the whole reason this came out is because we were talking about the internet, and Luke really wanted to know what we thought about the gorilla versus human dilemma.
Yeah, so I actually want to like just so I'll set some background what's it called precedents, but I want just a general answer, and then I want a more important question. So like this question has been floating around the internet where it's like you take 100 random willing men and they have to fight a silverback gorilla like with like their bare fists. Who's winning? So that's the question. It's that simple. It's just like you're in like an open field of some sort. Like there's no like trees or whatever that give the gorilla like a distinct advantage. There's no like rocks or sticks. Like you can't like you know, you can't like imitate a weapon. You're using your hands. You're using your feet. let's say you guys have like 20 minutes to work to like come up with a game plan, and then that gorilla is like walking through the gate and it's on. So like, first off, gut instincts, who's winning?
I have conflicting opinions on this.
Okay.
Let me answer first. The men.
Okay.
You think the men?
Yeah.
Okay. And let me add color to this. So I think if the fight were to be engaged, right, it would be very hard for the men to win, right? Okay. That's my understanding. But what I also know about gorillas is that I think 80% of their attack or their front to predators is intimidation.
Yeah.
So gorillas are actually very scared. They don't fight. Like what they'll throw water at you, they'll splash, and then they'll run away. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of them and like how they actually interact. But
I don't watch videos of gorilla.
I watch videos of gorillas, but they're not fighters. You know what I mean? They're actually very timid and very shy, and they prefer not to fight. So to that extent as well, I feel like if the men made enough noise and enough ruckus, I think they could scare off the gorillas. Yep. Ambush them, maybe get them to jump off a cliff, and then their strategy. I think the humans are smarter; they could win. Okay, but brute force, I think gorillas kill us.
Okay, so your opinion is like if we like engage in like a head-on fight, like we will lose. Yeah, but hypothetically, like we could come up with a strategy where we scare the gorilla and like we tire it out, and it's like. So like overwhelmed, it gets exhausted, and then like we kill it or some shit.
It might not even be like a concerted strategy. It just might be like men yelling would scare the gorillas probably. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like that's my take on the whole situation.
Yeah, it does sound like generally like there's a way. It sounds like
there's a way.
There's
definitely a way. Okay. There's definitely a way. I'm looking at these stats though, and it's not very promising.
I mean, that's like one gorilla versus one gorilla man.
Though. Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? This is one gorilla versus 100 men.
So it's one gorilla versus 100 men.
No, these stats are for one gorilla versus one adult male. But the question is
one gorilla versus 100 men. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question completely. I thought there were more gorillas.
No, it's one gorilla.
Just one gorilla?
I don't, dude. If we're talking about like 3 to 4 gorillas, I don't know. Like at that point,
the men win. The men win for sure.
Okay,
3-4 gorillas versus 100 men.
I saw
3 to 4. I don't know. Like
I saw a simulation. Someone did an actual virtual simulation of this where they took 1 million men against, I think it was 10,000 it was 10,000 gorillas, silverback gorillas, versus 1 million men, and the gorillas wiped them out. Like they in one line, they just kept mushing over people. And eventually, they ended up wiping out 1 million men.
But like, what? It was like a dumbass coming up with the simulation that doesn't use any strategy.
It does. It's the same simulations they use for old war strategies. So, there's like videos online, there's like historians that will use these simulations to strategize like, like Genghis Khan's army versus the Persian army. Like what would happen if they went against it? So it's not like a nothing simulation. It's designed. There's inputs into it.
I'm very skeptical of all this context I give.
Yeah, you're on team humanity.
I'm just.
We've already won. Like there's no team humanity.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that was what the simulation like was to show. So it's not a nothing simulation, but I also don't know if I believe like it's not optimized for gorilla versus man performance.
Okay. So I think like generally like I was watching like a bunch. The reason I wanted to talk about this, I was obviously consuming a bunch of this material, and the consensus is like most men are like like they think the men can win, and even like apparently the scientific experts in the community, they were like talking about how like gorillas are not like natural predators. They don't know how to like just kill something. Like they'll kill something because like they need to defend themselves, and they do it just like because they have to, right? Like this gorilla is not going to be throwing like right straights. He's not going to like know how to grab. Like he's going to like maybe accidentally like tear your arm off or some shit like that, but he's not gonna like know what he's doing kind of thing.
He'd rather throw something at you.
Yeah, so like
isn't this the premise of like Planet of the Apes or something like that? Or
but they were chimps, chimps are like more like nimble racist. And they're
fuck that.
But so here's my question now, and I think this is the more important question because I'm like the biggest factor here is
in this topic. Okay,
this is the important question. So because the reality here is it's all about morale. You know what I mean? Like No, it is because bro,
gorilla
like
morale versus
the human morale. It's about human morale because the reality is, it's like
Gorillas
you
don't
might
need
be
morale.
amped up to kill this gorilla, but the moment you see this gorilla like smush Arya's head, like the confidence is going down. You know what I mean? Like that first guy, like you're gonna see that guy get fucking.
I just want to point out one stat here. There's actually a lot here that's very concerning, but their height standing is 5'5", nothing crazy, right?
Yeah.
Their arm span is 8 feet long. To a 5'5" frame. It's 8 feet long.
It's interesting. So my question to you is, okay,
basketball.
you're like you're in this group of 100 men, and they're like, all right, Dolapo, all right, Arya, you get to pick 9 men out of your lineup of 100. Okay, the rest is just random. Like I'm saying, like they could be morbidly obese, they could be like literally 13 years old. You don't get to pick them. So now we're like, the odds are different. Who is your first 9?
I feel like I'll pick like 5, like, you know, skilled, expertly trained Marines, and then 4 UFC fighters, like heavyweight UFC fighters.
Ooh, skilled Marines. Okay.
I don't even think you need that. Like, okay, look at the stats.
I mean,
here,
that's
right?
my team. You pick yours.
Look at the stats here. I'll tell you my team. I might even just go for random, right? Because
Okay.
look, the pull strength for a gorilla up to 10 times its body weight, right? 1.5 times its body weight for the average human, right?
Yep.
Punching power, 1,300 to 2,700 pounds of force versus our 120 to 170. I feel like if you just have enough numbers, like 100 men, you multiply these numbers by 100 and you can overpower them. And I don't think you need specialized skills.
Okay.
Like I think with numbers and the average person, you could bum rush them.
These are very scientific approaches because I want to share my
scientific approaches.
I want to share my train of thought.
Scientific about my approach. Where are you?
Because I was gonna say my train of thought is not scientific. It's all pretty based on vibes.
All of this is vibes.
Yeah, on my top 9, I don't need to pick anyone else. I just need 2 people. I need Chris Jones.
Who's that?
Is he not the
Chiefs?
defensive tackle for the Chiefs? And the second guy I need is Draymond Green. Because here's the way I think about it. Okay, my team is going to be separated into 2 squads. Like squad 1 is like disable the gorilla's movement. We need a leader for that. So we need Chris Jones. Okay, we need someone who's gonna like, you know, like he's gonna push the men forward when that first guy gets absolutely destroyed. And then we need like a guy who's just the embodiment of chaos and violence. So that's the second team. That's damage.
Draymond's like the symbol of this.
From a UFC fan, Draymond Green is the embodiment of chaos and violence.
Dolapo, I'm about to get there, right?
Okay.
Where's Conor McGregor and all
the
this?
UFC guy, he knows how to hurt another human being. But like, how do you hurt a gorilla with your bare hands?
And Draymond Green, who knows how to not even like shoot a ball in a hoop that well. Like,
he knows how to hurt people.
We need the creativity.
Better than a UFC fighter.
We need the creativity.
No. He knows how to hurt people unprompted. Unprompted.
Like,
UFC fighters only hurt people when prompted.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is gonna be prompted. This is a sanctioned fight.
They're too logical. For some reason, I have a feeling that Draymond will look at the gorilla and he'll just know. He'll know the plan of attack.
Okay.
I feel like if it's
This is pure vibes. This is entertainment.
This is pure vibes. I feel like Draymond goes to the zoo and starts sizing up the animals.
Oh my god.
I think that's like its default.
I see that. I see that. I think this scenario
I can take him.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, I know. I think I need my Marines, my military dudes to like actually. You talk about morale to ensure morale's there.
Okay.
You talk about Chris Jones organizing fucking people to disable an animal. Like no disrespect. Chris Jones is $100 millionaire.
Okay.
Like, you know, a great football player. I just don't trust Chris Jones like strategy and like. You know, like just overall leadership.
Okay, so who's the defensive coordinator?
I need every crackhead in all of Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa. That would be my team.
I trust Chris Jones to put the opposing quarterback on his back.
Yeah.
To like, I feel like I'll trust the Marines to organize like 100 people to make sure we win the fight.
The Marines is they don't have weapons. Like that's what Marines are like. They're tactically like you're right. The game plan aspect is still going to be relevant.
I'm not considering weapons here. I'm just considering strategy. Like who's going to organize these people and who's going to tell them what to do and how to win.
The one person I for sure would have David Goggins. And he would whip everybody up. That would be the motive. That would be all the that would be all the motivation needed.
David Goggins is gonna tell everyone to run.
Run laps.
The gorilla is like dead tired or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I with Dolapo's input, I changed my mind. I need 3 people. I need Chris Jones. I need Draymond Green, and then I need the defensive coordinator of the KC.
Steve
And Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick is the greatest.
Oh, Big Bill, yeah.
defensive.
You know what? We might just unite. Like my top 9 might just be 9 football coaches. You know, we'll get the Phillies O
Old white
line.
men, they're not going to be useful on the battlefield. That's like now you're going.
We'll get it handled.
The gorilla could be
Guys,
like, you know, playing ragdoll with one of them, and everybody, is distracting. Everybody else gets on the gorilla now, you know?
Exactly. So they lay out their game plan, and then they're the sacrifice because they can't even run away. Like,
You know, now that you mention, I feel like getting Chris Tucker in there would actually be good. Like
Chris Tucker.
Yeah, just like dance and distract the gorilla. Like do your Michael Jackson.
Yeah, do Michael Jackson
and then become the ragdoll.
if Chris Tucker is in that group of 100, we're going to have 99 men because he is like somehow going to be on the gorilla.
I would prefer an entertainer. I would prefer an entertainer that I don't like as much.
That's
It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. If you had to pick an entertainer you didn't like to give to the gorilla,
I wouldn't. I don't think about entertainers I don't like. There we go.
Anyway, that was I just wanted to let you guys know Draymond Green would be a part of my squad.
Draymond Green. That was like, I won't lie, I did not see that coming. But like
to the audience, please let us know who would be your top 10 team to take on this one gorilla.
No, I feel the crackhead angle. That seems like a good angle. Maybe like Florida men. You know, that could
Absolutely.
work.
So before we kind of get into this next part, I want to give a shout out to Youthful Vengeance. We went to their show. Actually, Luke's wearing their t-shirt right now. Last week, they're doing really great things for local artists, and we hope we can work with them in the future on a couple of things. But they had a show, they had an exhibition, a market, and they do this regularly. So we'll link them down below. You guys can check them out. But hopefully we can showcase some more of their stuff coming up. It's at Ossington and Dundas is their location. Great drinks as well, like coffee and lattes. It was a really good setup. So shout out to everybody there. Youthful Vengeance. So what we really wanted to talk about today was an article that Dolapo found. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, when you say what we really wanted to talk about, I'm like, I think everything we spoke about, we really wanted to talk about.
Absolutely. We have so for anyone who doesn't know, we do have a plan for how these episodes are supposed to go. Sometimes it goes off topic. Like, we did not expect to bring up
every time it goes off topic.
Every time it goes off topic.
Sometimes we're better at reining it in than other times.
So when I say that, this is just what was on the original plan is an article that Dolapo shared. It was actually very interesting. It was about men in society today. I'll let you talk about it a little bit. I have some thoughts on it too.
I was listening to podcasts as I usually do. I think it's Prof G Pod with Scott Galloway, and he had this guest, David Brooks, and I think David Brooks is like a conservative thinker. Something like that. I don't know, but like, accomplished journalist, writer, all of that, and they were talking about like his an article, an opinion piece he wrote in the New York Times back in 2022 called "The Crisis of Boys and Men," and I think the gist of it is like, like basically men and boys are struggling, like modern day men and boys are struggling, and like struggling specifically in school. Specifically with getting jobs, specifically with mental health. And, he just kind of wrote an opinion piece. His opinion piece was basically a review of the book of Boys and Men by Richard Reeves. I haven't read the book, but he kept on referencing the book, and I was like, dude, like, are you giving us opinions or are you just writing a book review? So you read it, like it's a little bit of both. At some point in the near future, I will read the book by Richard Reeves, but I think what really just caught my attention were a couple of stats, and I think, Arya, you had the stats. I'll say just read the stats, and then I'll pose a question to the guys in the room, and then we can kick off the discussion.
Yeah, and to add a couple of things here too. So the article it's from 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
So it's 3 years old. It's not like brand new, but it goes to show like this is something people have been talking about for a little while, and I think it's actually more important that it's from 2022. But so one of the stats was men now account for only 40% of college graduates. I think that number was a lot more even many years ago. I think that was the takeaway from the article. Young men are more likely to live at home, be unemployed, or not be in school than women. That is now the angle that it all falls on. And then loneliness is spiking. So 15% of men basically said that they have no friends or they have no close friends, and that is up from 3% in 1990. So if you're looking at the past, 35 years? That's 35 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So from 3% to 15%, like a 5x increase in men feeling that they have no close friends. Obviously, we're very fortunate enough to like not be a part of that number in this house, but it's a lot of work, as you guys would know, and you guys are a part of like us keeping our friendship alive, and like doing the things that we do is not easy. You know what I mean? There's arguments and there's ego you have to put aside and all of that. But I thought that was the most significant stat that I found from it.
For me, I think you didn't even mention it, but the most significant stat I found was men make up 75% of what they call deaths of despair. Yeah. And what deaths of despair is drug overdoses and suicide. And that was like, I feel like it does make sense in terms of, more men commit suicide than women, and more men are probably doing drugs, but 75% was just a little staggering. Mm-hmm. And I think what that showed is there's probably a little bit of a mental health crisis within the male community that like probably isn't being talked about enough. But I guess just given that backdrop, I just wanted to ask the guys, because like we're all like, dudes, we're all young, we're all modern men, but what does it mean for us individually, and I don't mean society, but like individually, like your experience, what does it mean to be a man today? And do you think, based off of whatever definition you have for yourself, do you think we're set up to succeed?
I actually had a adjacent question that I don't know if you mind like posing it at the same time, kind of comparatively. I was gonna ask what like growing up, what was your idea of being a man, and how does that stack against your definition right now? I'm curious, like if we can explore that one a little bit.
Take it away. Like
growing up, I thought being a man was providing and kind of just like keeping stability. I'm looking at like pure examples that were set, right? But it's like, being in touch with your emotions wasn't a huge thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the emotional responsibility wasn't there. I think being a man as well was confidence and assuredness. I think in the way that you lived your life, or at least like every male role model that I had in my life were very like headstrong in their opinion of the world. The other definitions of being a man, like like loving properly and like taking care of, I guess, the other people around you, that came a little bit later in life, I'd say. But like growing up, being very very young, it was definitely like straight providing and like stoicness. Like that was like the two biggest parts of it. Today I think that definition's changed quite a bit.
For you, I feel like we should speak for us.
For us, yeah. Like I'll say, for me, it's changed a little bit, probably not quite a bit. Like I think all the principles and everything is still there for me, but other stuff has been added into the mix, I'd say. The reason why I said it's changed quite a bit, it made me think, I guess it was so stark when I was growing up. The definition of being a man was very ubiquitous. Like everybody kind of agreed on it, right? But that's not the case anymore. Like there's a lot of differing opinions on what it means to be a man. So for me, at least, that definition is still there, but there's other stuff around it, like being in tune with you know, the way I feel about things, I now consider to be a part of a man as well. You know what I mean? Because that's something that I want to do. Or, you know, adequately showing love. Like that's also considered, you know, being a man. Like the confidence in your opinions thing, I feel like I've never been closer to that kind of categorization of being a man than I am in my like older age, you know, right now. So that's like from my side of things. I don't know if you guys agree.
And I guess the third part of the question before we hand over is like, based off of those definitions, do you think you were set up to succeed? Like with those expectations of being a man and how you're measuring up?
I mean, set up to succeed by who? By my parents?
By yourself.
By myself?
Like, or by society, by your parents, whatever.
Because, you know, you by society.
Or whoever set those, gave you those
people who say, like, there's somebody else who has to set you up for success, right? So I'm, like, curious as to, like, who that person is.
Well, like, your definition of being a man, like, where did those perceptions come from?
They came from the role models that I had and the media that I consumed.
Okay. Now, based off of the role models that you had and the media that you consumed, do you think those expectations that were set you up to succeed in life?
Yes and no. I think in some parts it's hard for me. Like, for example, you know, the provider aspect, and that's what this article talked about a little bit as well. It's a lot harder to be the breadwinner now than it was like 30, 40 years ago. You know what I mean? As a man, like it's, you know, salaries are not climbing as much and things are getting expensive, right? So to that regard, it makes it harder. You know, have I still kind of been doing it for I live for myself, right? Like there is no bread. I am my only breadwinner, right? Like I've managed to move out and like have my own place, like afford my own things, like own my own car, like all of this. So in that case, like, yeah, I've been able to kind of live up to that expectation a little bit, but there's a lot more life ahead of me right now that I haven't really like stress tested that. So that's why I'm saying yes and no. It's like yes to the extent of which I've lived my life so far, but I also recognize how difficult it is to do this on a much larger scale. You know what I mean? We're getting to that age right now where we have to start thinking about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think that's great.
I'll let somebody else take this on for a second.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like my perspective is like, I think one, like some of these stats, like they speak to nuance issues that make up a bigger problem. Like, for example, like loneliness in some of these aspects. Like, I don't think that has distinct, let's say, like the fault of that might or might not be correlated with masculinity. Like, does that make sense? So like why men are experiencing loneliness specifically might not be correlated to the same issue of like masculinity and expectations about masculinity. Like those could be bigger problems overall. So like I want to kind of start off by saying like I don't think anyone's necessarily set up for success. I don't think this is an issue set up like specifically towards men. I think this is more so an issue of complexity of society, right? Like a lot of what we were talking about, like being a provider or like all of these things, like they may be fit a more traditional idea of society that isn't the one that we're living in now. And it's one of those things that I think in the past we had always talked about, like when the goal is simpler, it's easier to accomplish those goals and thus it's easier to feel fulfilled. Like when the goal is like, okay, well, I will go and work and my wife will be at home and she'll make sure that the kids are raised properly. And my metric of success is the kid is going to go to, you know, high school and go to university, right? That exact ratio now, it's like, okay, well, how is my kid going to go to university? I need to get them tutors. I need to get them to a good high school. I need to get them to a good middle school. Like every single one of those steps has infinitely more complexities and it applies to every single person, right? So I think there's, first of all, like an overarching issue of like just society and who we're expected to be as people. What makes our lives fulfilling as people in 2025 is very different than what it used to be when like this book was written. So that I think is a universal problem and not isolated towards men, but now speaking towards men specifically. Like in North America, I think like the definition of masculinity is varied. And
I want to interrupt you. I want you to speak less generally and more for you personally, by the way.
Well, yeah, like I can't speak personally until I provide that general sort of like spiel, right? Because I want to make it clear, like I don't think this is a problem. But from my perspective, I want to make it clear that I don't think this is a problem that is specified towards men. I think it's a problem specified towards everyone. And I'm trying to illustrate that by providing an example. If you want me to provide you like what's it called, a personal example, it would be like when I was young, like for example, okay, be a provider, right? Well, what does it mean to be a provider? To my dad, it might have meant like, okay, I need to have enough money so that my kids can go to school, right? But when I was going to university, that's a very different situation than if I'm thinking about if I'm going to get married and have kids and if I want my kids to go to university, right? It's much harder now. Like I have to think about things like, can I get my kid into a private school? When they're in private school, can I afford additional tutor? Can I afford daycare? Can I afford daycare in the city I live in, right? So that isn't, oh, did my dad teach me improperly? No, he taught me to be a provider, but my dad wasn't estimating the cost of living in the major cities that we live in to go up this much. You know, he wasn't expecting societally people to change and people, a lot of people to not want to seek long-term relationships, right? Those are not things that he could have foreseen, but they speak more to the wider, like, let's say, environment, and they do impact me because I'm someone who's raised similar to Aria in the sense of like, I want to be traditional. I want to be a provider. I want to make sure my wife and my kids and my wider family can go do the things they want to do. But I guess the thing I'm just trying to illustrate is there's a bigger and more complex problem to talk about, but even just satisfying the exact same thing as the past, like the exact same thing of, I just want to be a provider. I want my kids to have a good life. I want my family to have a good life. That exact problem I just want to illustrate is, to me, harder today. And that's going to come with a lot of issues, right? Like when you feel like you can't accomplish goals that your dad was able to accomplish and his dad was able to accomplish and your great grandpa was able to accomplish, right? That's why we exist. Like our family has been successful. The men in our lives, in our bloodline, have been successful to date. That's why we exist, right? So it's one of those things where like now we're trying to accomplish the exact same thing as them and it's harder. So like I think that's itself going to come with some dissonance. Before I pass it to you, D, I want to speak about one thing specifically, and it's the loneliness aspect. I think loneliness is challenging today because I think we're one of the first generations that's raised with individuality as the goal and the like in mind. Like my dad was never asked like what he wants to do for work. I don't know about you guys. That's my like personal family experience. My dad went for the career that at the time was going to pay the most and was most fitting to his skills. And he found fulfillment in being good at what he did. But this was a question I asked myself. And it's something that like even today, like I doubt like what I want to do for work. So how does that contribute to loneliness? Because I'm always thinking about like what I should do. What should I do to occupy my time, interests, etc. Like I'm much more self-centered instead of thinking about like, whereas my dad, like he would talk to me about his social settings, like they just happened very naturally. And he wasn't like whenever they happened, he wasn't like, wait, do I want to do this right now? Like, is this how I should be making use of my time? He was kind of just like, oh, you know, like the group is doing it, I'm going to go do it. And he ended up enjoying it, right? Like, I feel like that almost like questioning and asking aspect, even though it's like much more individualistic, is like a proponent of loneliness. Cause like when we're talking, like, for example, the three of us, when we talk about things to do, how often do I like bring up something? I'm like, hey, let's go do that. And then you guys are like, wait, but why would I want to do that? Well, why is that? That's because like that's like something that I thought about that fits my interests, but it doesn't necessarily fit you guys. Whereas maybe in the past, like if someone brought up the idea, they would just be like, okay, yeah, like let's just do it. And then next week we'll do something. Like, you know what? I don't know if that makes sense. It's the whole reason why we
went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
That's something that like I really enjoy doing and I wanted you guys to do. I wouldn't have gone alone, right? I'm not going to take up time. I just want to like make one call out here because it seems like the conversation can go two ways. Well, there's two factors here in this conversation, right? The common denominator and everything that you mentioned, everything that I mentioned is money, right?
Yeah.
That's a big part of it, right? Like economically,
things are more expensive
because of the past expectations, I think, of being a man. The economics of today make it harder to kind of be aligned with that. That's one side. And maybe we can have that conversation separate from the cultural side. So there's a cultural side to this too, where it's like we're actively changing the definition of what it means to be a man. We're you know, all these like traditional man kind of factors and categories that are now considered toxic or, you know, not okay in society or, you know, need to be managed and brought down a little. All these are being taken away. And that's like culturally changing the effect of being a man, and no alternatives are being put in place. So I'll let you answer, but like I wanted to, because it seems like, you know, that conversation can go two ways. So, you know, maybe we can keep that in mind too while we're talking about it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I appreciate you kind of just like, you know, illustrating that a little bit more. I think for me, growing up, being a provider, absolutely. Being stoic, absolutely. Just being responsible was huge. Being accountable as well was huge. You know, for me, just being a man growing up, I think that was something like, you know, my dad was like, you know, you always have to be able to be accountable for all your actions because they don't just affect you, they'll affect you around people. And I think being accountable, being responsible, kind of just talks to being a leader. So I think that's kind of what traditional man means to me, like being stoic, being a leader, and being a provider. Um, have I been set up to succeed? I think in general, like, yeah, like I think those are great values to uphold. I think if those are values I can, incorporate into my life, like regardless, like, man, woman, whatever, I think I will be like successful. So in that sense, yes, like I do think, yeah, those expectations and those values did set me up to succeed. However, I think like everyone's mentioned, like, it's pretty hard to reach each and every one of those, right? Like obviously hearing that and seeing that, like as a kid, like you don't give too much thought to it, but like growing up and adulting, as we like to call it, I think I'm finding out, oh fuck, like like all of these, like like we can go being a provider, we can isolate that, we can go being stoic. Let's kind of like I'll just be call that like emotional regulation, like that's pretty hard. And being a leader, that's also pretty hard. Now, how's it evolving? If I'm being completely honest, like it is evolving, but I think the values are really the same. I think we've done a really good job of like muddling up words. Like as we grow up, which is important because a lot of these are nuanced topics, right? So like being a provider doesn't just mean like, oh, you're the breadwinner and other people don't provide as well. It's like, hey, like providing is not just monetary. Like it can be in the form of support. It can be in the form of finances. It can be in the form of like whatever kind of like whatever the person you're catering to needs is what you provide, right? And that's kind of what it means to be a provider. It's not just in one dimension, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're talking about being stoic, and I think that's maybe in the past, and definitely the way I perceived it was like the way to regulate my emotions was by suppressing it. But I think growing up and like as that sentiment has evolved, I found to me being a man is being able to face my emotions and not suppress them, and that is truly the hard thing. And a lot of people don't do that, and and it comes out in other ways. And so at the end of the day, yeah, like I still have to be stoic, but like not by necessarily suppressing my emotions, but by being able to understand them and like face them. And obviously like being a leader, I think is probably more relevant now than it ever was, because I think there's a serious lack of leadership. Like, you get what I mean? Like at least like right now, um like there's no like like values, accountability, just responsibility. I think they've been devalued severely, right? I appreciate.
What do you mean by leadership? Just curiosity.
So accountability, responsibility,
Okay.
right?
Leadership to who? Like a leadership to yourself is what you mean right now?
I mean, like leadership within yourself, within your friend group, within your community. Like you can take it from the most micro to the most macro, but like at the end of the day, when I'm talking about leadership, I'm just referring to being accountable to yourself and being accountable to the people around you and being responsible for yourself and like what I mean, for the people around you. Like I think that's really what I mean when I say leadership, right? Just at least those two values for me, right? And again, like I said, I think those have been devalued. And I was gonna say one thing I like, I appreciate about our friend group is I think we're all extremely responsible, and I think we're all pretty accountable to each other and to ourselves. Like like and that's, and I think we all hold ourselves accountable as well to each other. And I just like I feel like that's not something that has been the most like maybe devalued, and that's my personal opinion, that it's been devalued a little bit. So like those are just to like answer those questions, but to move the conversation a little bit further, and maybe we can't even do too much because I think everybody touched on very important things. I think Luke, specifically what you were mentioning was so important, at least to me, where like, hey, the broader society is changing, and with that, like that's causing our roles to evolve. That's causing like a lot of confusion. Like in this article, that's exactly the context that he's talking about. Like society has changed so much that there is now confusion within men. Like men are lost. Like the stats we mentioned about like graduate, like, you know, education, I think in the article was saying men and boys don't necessarily know that going to university or getting an education is going to lead them to being a provider, right? And like and now that like line is no longer straight, it's like, how do I accomplish this goal? Right. And that leaves, like, you get what I mean? Like a little bit of
room for
confusion.
interpretation.
Yeah, it leaves room for interpretation and room for confusion. And that ends up leading to loneliness. And then, I can't suppress my feelings. That's wrong. Like, you know, I need to therapize and stuff like that. But that's not how I was taught. And so now that I'm having to do that, that's making me feel very vulnerable, very insecure. It's leading to depression. And like all of this to say is like, and this is where the lack of leadership comes in, as society has changed, the evolution of our values. And maybe I was, like, you know, being selfish in terms of saying, oh, the values are the same. I have seen how they've evolved personally for me. Like, I don't think a lot of the men and boys have seen how those values are evolving for them, and that's led to this like huge gap, like in terms of like just being lost and not knowing what to do. And I think the article was just stating like the crisis of boys and men right now is confusion. Like, you talk about the complexity of that's absolutely it. It's like it's so complex now that everyone's confused and there's no guiding light. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
to lead us. So that's the broader way, or the way I wanted to open it up a little bit there.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I think when there is confusion, people, let's call it, like, we're just talking about boys, right? Like, let's talk about boys right now. When there is confusion, they're going to go search for what will alleviate that confusion. And that's when influence and opinions and probably not the best sources of information. Like, let's talk, like, let's not deep dive into this, but let's like bring up Andrew Tate as an example, right? Who's had like a stronghold on young boys, right? We won't have to talk about opinions or anything like that, but like the point is he's
vacuum.
It's a vacuum, right?
Vacuum.
Like, and it doesn't matter. Like, we're not here to discuss whose opinion's right and whose opinion's wrong, right? I'm just saying this to kind of get my point across, right? I think that a lot of like what is said from you know his accounts is probably not great for young men, right? Like, they're not learning like the best things, right? Not all the time. Again, we don't have to deep dive into that, but that goes to show that there's a confusion and there's a conflicting of opinions that comes as a result of it, right? You're gonna have some boys who are really in tune with what it means to be a man in their own eyes. Maybe they have a really great relationship with their father who instilled really, really strong values in them, right? Like, the role of the father is also really important in this, in all of this too, right? Like, the role of the father can actually alleviate maybe, like, in my opinion, 80 to 90% of the problems that's come with the miscommunication of what it means to be a man today, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's accountability, it's leadership, right? Not everyone's definition of what it means to be a man is going to be the same. Just the same way not everybody's definition of what it means to be a person is going to be the same, right? You learn that from your environment. You learn that from your parents, right? So if a father is a father, you're going to learn the values of the father, right? And as long as the father has some semi-decent values or some semi-decent way of living their life, you're also going to inherit that. You'll make mistakes, but you'll always land back in that one space. So yeah, I think the confusion is a result of, like the article said, we are ostracizing a lot of the factors and the values that would have made to be a man traditionally, and we're not really providing solid, like, actionable alternatives to that. You know what I mean? And that leaves a gap for people and boys especially to be like, okay, well, you know, what am I supposed to do right now? You know what I mean? There's this guy on the internet who's telling me I know exactly what it takes to be a man, and it's speaking to me, you know what I mean? And it's hitting the algorithm in the right way. And yeah, they'll just go, and there's a million different ways that algorithm can teach you how to be. And I think that it compounds the issue of confusion, because now your peers are all thinking extremely differently in such nuanced ways too, right?
Yeah, like you said, like I think you touched upon a couple of really important things there, where it's like in the modern era there are certain things that make problems worse, like in general, right? Like, for example, like it's very easy to fall into biases because you can find any sort of information, and once you start to, all the platforms are kind of incentivized to keep sharing you that same information that's keeping you engaged. So that's like you know what I mean? Like that's a problem that would apply to a ton of things, but for men specifically. But I think like to me, like a lot of what we're talking about is essentially just like cognitive dissonance, right? Like it's like you grew up being told that if you did these set of things, you get to achieve these set of things, and that isn't the case. It's becoming not the case at a faster rate because of the ever changing complexity of society. And then I think also just for a lot of the men who grew up in our environments, like there were several things that happened throughout the course of our lives that probably challenge what our traditional ideas of masculinity are, right? Like things like not to say like the Me Too movement in the sense of the movement itself, but more of the ripple effects of what it caused. I personally know when that happened, like a lot of the guys I was around in university and stuff, like they became very hesitant when they went out to clubs and things like that because they were like, okay, I don't want to be seen as like a weird guy. I don't want to like, you know, do all these things. So now like, again, like that's more of a smaller thing. To me, I think one of the things I wanted to share is like, I think men are very like boneheaded in the sense of like, they live in definitive truths and falsehoods, which is not the case. Like a lot of like the male stories that we grew up on, like the fantasy stories and things like that, that guys grew up on have like definitive villains and heroes and like a right action. And it's like, that's not the case in the society we live through anymore, right? And like, I think the thing that it was really interesting is that, for example, you bring up Andrew Tate. The reality is a person who respects, who has a great relationship with his father, has a great relationship with his mom, you know, works a really meaningful, progressive job, whatever. That guy and a guy who is a diehard Andrew Tate fan will both say it's important to wake up and be disciplined and work out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because the fact of the matter is, life is not so black and white. Like a person can have extremely harmful opinions about something, but also have correct opinions about something else. So the advice I want to just generally give is like, I think there are things that are general universal truths, and you can ride with those and then continue to adopt your own philosophy without being so like hard-headed. So what are some of those things? For example, like being physically fit, generally a good thing, right? Things that will generally net benefit you without causing any harm to others. Those are things that you can just continue to abide by. You can continue to look upon those factors in the great men of history or whatever, but you don't have to look at the other things because those things that worked for those men back then might not exist in society now, right? So like be disciplined, be respectful, seek knowledge, be a lifetime long learner, you know, always seek to be active. But like the way that you're going to succeed in society is always going to change. And like, you have to kind of just be flexible. It's like what we were talking about with emotional quotient instead of intelligence quotient or people quotient now, right? Yeah. Now it's going to be about creativity, how we can actually redefine the tools that we use instead of being like, I'm the best at this specific skill. It's about, I'm the best at finding the solution to different problems almost, right? So, yeah. But I feel for you guys, you know, like I just also want to share, like at the very end, like before you guys go in here, like these are not problems that I won't speak for you guys. I feel these problems, right? Like I feel isolated, and I think I have a great group of friends. Mm-hmm. There are times where I feel like I'm not doing enough, and like, yeah, like I was telling you guys, my boss the other day in the kitchen was just like, no, but like you are like probably among the top like 1 to 5% in your age group. And it's like, we still feel these, like, I will say I specifically feel these things. I won't speak for you guys. So like, if you're out there feeling these things, this is not like an abnormal thought. You know what I mean? Like, I think these are like really normal things that every single guy in society feels nowadays. So.
I think, yeah, like a lot of the concepts being brought up are not new. You know what I mean? Like definitely men have been struggling with this for a long time. I think you call it out perfectly. There's a lot of information out there. You know what I mean? And like I will also, my biggest advice to like young men is there's tons of information out there. In my opinion, today, you know, one of the things that have been added on to being the definition of a man, like you said, is being able to like lead your own life in a righteous direction, right? You get to decide what that righteous direction is. That's the caveat of all of this, right? But the stress of what is the righteous direction has never been higher. Because there's so many different things you can do. There's so many different pieces of information you can read. How do you know what's real? And unfortunately, the advice that like I would give is probably not going to alleviate your stress. It's like, yeah, there is information out there. Your responsibility now as a man is to digest it all and try and come out of it better than you went into it. And it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task to be like a person for a very long time, right? Living life is hard. Living past the age of 30 is hard. Living past the age of 40 is harder. 50 is even harder than that. You know what I mean? So, because you're constantly faced with new inputs, and you constantly have to readjust, like, what is righteous to you? What are your values? And that doesn't really get easier. So, it's kind of bittersweet. Like, for men, like, there is a way. Like, you are the way. You get to decide it. But it's becoming harder and harder every single day with more information. So that's really all I have to add on the topic. I think it's bittersweet, but it's sweet because it's doable, bitter because it's hard.
Yeah, no, like nothing else to add. We're at time here, so I don't want to butcher this. But yeah, hey man, like we empathize. Like we're all going through this, and like it's just I think I shared my values. If they can help, like I hope they do. I can't do much better than just tell you how I'm navigating it. So, hey, that's all. And
man, if you ever want to talk to us, just shoot us a message. We have a website now, by the way, 3wiseguysPod.com. Please go check it out.
Yeah. Don't shoot Ari a message on Instagram. He'll respond like 3 months later.
I'm actually
if you're on like death's door, dude, do not count on that. Do not count on that as the road.
I'm really glad you brought this up. I really am, because if any of my friends who are offended by me not responding are watching, yeah, see, it's not just you. So don't be offended. I treat everybody this shittily. So. I'm kidding. Go check out our website. You can send us a little like request thing. You can give us inquiries and everything like that. Check out past episodes. Thanks for listening. Until next time, one love.
Aces.
Mwah.